Have you ever sat there on a GTA loading screen and thought about the people you chose to stab in the back yourself? Like, did you pull the trigger on Michael? Did you burn Trevor? Did you shoot Playboy X instead of Dwayne? Or pick Dimitri's deal in GTA 4? And which one still kind of bothers you when you think about it later, because you know it wasn't just a mission? Look, in this video I'm going to show you that those moments aren't random at all. They're part of a pattern that's been running through GT for over 20 years, from Catalina gunning down Claude in that first bank heist in GT3, all the way to Franklin standing on that tower with Michael in GT5. Rockstar has been quietly teaching you one lesson: your enemies are obvious, but the real danger is always your friends. So here's how it goes. You remember the big ones, right? Big Smoke selling out Grove Street, Lance Vance turning on you in the mansion, Dimitri double crossing Nico again and again. That stuff is burned into everybody's brain. But what happens after you start looking closer is you realize there are way more betrayals than the famous cutscenes you post on TikTok. There are optional ones, hidden ones, and player-triggered ones that most people never connect as one long story. Think about it. You can choose to kill Trevor or Michael. You can decide Playboy X's fate. You can side with Dimitri or go for revenge on Jimmy Pegorino. You can even let side characters live in one mission and then watch them come back to bite you later. It's a messed up situation because the game keeps asking you, who do you trust? And then punishes you no matter what you pick. Alright, in this breakdown, we're going to go through every major betrayal in GTA history and release order, not just the obvious Lance Vance dance moments, but the quiet setups and payoffs too. We'll look at who turns on who, what they gain from it, and the exact mission where it explodes. Then we'll jump to the payoff mission where you finally get your revenge, or where you realize there is no clean revenge at all. The first thing that happens is the world itself changes. After these betrayal safe houses get locked, phone contacts go dead, territories flip colors, entire neighborhoods belong to new gangs. Sometimes it even carries into later games, like how Catalina shows up again in San Andreas, or how choices in GT4 change who's alive to be mentioned later. It's a real low blow when you realize the game remembers what you did. By the end of this video, I want you asking the same question I've been stuck on for years in GTA: is betrayal just a cool plot twist, or is it the real final boss that always finds you no matter what choices you make? Let's get started. Alright, so if you're still here, you don't just want a few famous moments, you want the whole picture. In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how Rockstar builds betrayal into GTA, from the very first cutscene robbery all the way to GTA Online heists that fall apart because your own crew sells you out. So here's how it goes. We're moving in release order, not jumping around like a chaos montage. First, we're going through the 3D era: GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories. You'll see how Catalina sets the tone by shooting Claude in the opening, how Lance Vance pretends to be your partner while feeding Sonny info, and how Big Smoke and Ryder quietly flip on Grove Street long before the big reveal. After that, we shift into the HD era, GTA 4 and its episodes, then GTA 5 and GTA Online, so you can feel how the backstabs get colder and more personal over time. But what actually counts as a betrayal here? It's not just the obvious boss turns on you stuff. We're talking friends who suddenly try to kill you, allies who sell you out to the cops or a rival gang, and those forced choice missions where the game literally asks you, are you going to betray this person or not? So when Dimitri promises Nico a new start and then sets him up again in the deal ending, that's in. When you choose to kill Trevor or Michael, that's in. When Lance has been running along con the whole time, that's absolutely in. If someone lies, flips, or abandons you when it matters, we're covering it. And we're not just rewatching cutscenes you've seen 100 times. The first thing that happens is we look at the mechanical fallout. Who disappears from the map after they betray you or you betray them? Who stops answering the phone? Which safe houses, businesses, or territories suddenly change hands? You'll see how Catalina is gone for the whole game until the finale, how Lance's death locks in your control of the mansion, how Big Smoke's betrayal is literally written into the gang territory map, and what happens after you choose Dealer Revenge in GTA 4. Look, there are no mods, no what-if fan missions, no fake voice lines here. Just what actually happens in the games. Plus why Rockstar wrote it that way, and why it hits so hard when CJ finds out about Smoke, when Nico realizes Dimitri played him twice, when Franklin has to listen to Michael call him a traitor. It's a messed up situation, and we're going to pause on those moments to talk about why they feel so real. On top of that, we're comparing how each protagonist reacts. Claude says nothing and just keeps moving. Tommy explodes with pure rage. CJ is caught between guilt and survival. Nico looks exhausted every time someone lies to him. Franklin gets weirdly pragmatic about who has to go. By lining them up in order, you'll see betrayal evolve from simple revenge fuel into something like the core philosophy of GTA. And right after that, we'll jump into GTA 3 and watch the very first bullet that starts this whole pattern. So here's how it goes in almost every GTA story. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You don't just get betrayed out of nowhere. Rockstar spends hours setting you up so that when someone finally turns on you, it hits like a punch instead of a random cutscene. Alright, first, think about how you usually start. You arrive in a new city, or come back home, basically broke and powerless. Claude gets dumped in Liberty City with nothing. Tommy lands in Vice City with a suitcase and a setup. CJ flies back to Los Santos for a funeral. Nico shows up in Liberty City chasing a dream that's already a lie. The first thing that happens is you meet a tiny circle of helpers who feel like your lifeline. Without them, you're stuck. These early missions are like trust training wheels. The game quietly teaches you, rely on this person. In Vice City, Lance Vance keeps bailing you out, flying in with the chopper, cracking jokes, acting like your only real partner in a city full of snakes. In GTA 4, Roman is your goofy cousin, your first safe house, your intro to taxis and bowling and bad decisions. You protect him, you rescue him, you drag him out of trouble, so when betrayal or loss hits later, it's not just a checkbox. You feel like the game broke an actual relationship you built by pressing that accept mission button over and over. But look at what's pushing everybody. Cops, feds, and crime bosses are basically betrayal engines. Tenpenny in San Andreas is the blueprint. A cop who pretends he's helping CJ while he's really holding a gun to his whole family. UL. Paper and the other handlers in GTA 4 do the same thing to Nico, dangling information and visas while forcing him to kill people he doesn't even know. In GTA 5, the Fib plays Michael and Franklin against each other and against Trevor, dragging them into heists they don't want just to keep the government off their backs. It's a messed up situation, and you can see how every character starts thinking, who do I sell out so I don't get buried? In this video, I'm going to show you that GTA uses betrayal almost like a personality test. Are you going to be loyal like CJ, who keeps coming back for sweet even when it ruins his life? Are you going to be like Franklin, trying to stay loyal but still considering options A and B? Or are you closer to Dimitri, selling people out the second it benefits you? The games keep asking you, mission after mission, what happens after you choose survival over loyalty? And the wild part is, Rockstar set this tone right at the start of the 3D era. Before Lance, before Big Smoke, before Dimitri, there's one quiet, brutal move that defines everything. Catalina, a bank job, one gunshot, and a body on the ground. Next, we're going all the way back to that first double cross and seeing how it rewired Ka forever. Alright, so here's how it goes. Before Gita was about giant heists and 3 protagonists, it was about one quiet guy, one loud girlfriend, and one gunshot that tells you, trust is a joke here. Gita 3 opens like a classic crime movie. You and Catalina are in on a bank job together. Masks on, guns out, working as a team. For about 30 seconds you feel like partners. Then the first thing that happens is the game rips that idea away. As you're escaping over the bridge, Catalina turns, points the gun at Claude, and just shoots him in the gut. No warning, no argument, nothing. She grabs the money, walks off with Miguel, and leaves you bleeding on the ground to get arrested. That's your introduction to the 3D era. No big speech, no explanation, just you trusted the wrong person, now live with it. It's a real low blow. And the messed up part is, the game makes you sit in that betrayal for hours. Claude never says a word about it. He barely reacts. You're just this silent guy, doing jobs for every lowlife in Liberty City, while Catalina's name keeps floating around like a ghost. You hear about her on the radio. You see her face on wanted posters. Other characters mention her cartel like it's some unstoppable force. Meanwhile, you're stuck running errands for mob bosses and psychopaths, knowing the person who shot you is out there building an empire. Look, that silence is on purpose. In this video, I'm going to show you that Rockstar uses Claude's blank reaction to make you project your own anger. You want payback way more than he seems to. Every mission you climb the ladder, you're not just chasing money. You're chasing that bridge moment. What happens after you finally get close to her? The game doesn't suddenly turn into a heartfelt reunion. It doubles down. By the final mission, Catalina pulls the same trick again. She pretends she's willing to trade Maria's life, like there's going to be some kind of negotiation. For a second you think, okay, maybe this is finally a fair deal. Then she immediately tries to have you killed from a helicopter, machine gunning the bridge and screaming at you over the loudspeaker. She's not scared of you, she doesn't respect you. And she never did. You were always just the guy holding the bag until she got bored. And that's her whole motive in one go. Ambition, greed, and pure boredom. She wants more power, more money, and she's done with Claude the second he stops being exciting. It's a messed up situation, but it sets a rule Gita keeps using. Love interests and partners are just as dangerous as enemies. Catalina comes back in San Andreas with CJ. And she does the exact same thing, just louder. Different city, different guy, same pattern. By the time you see her again, you should know better than to trust anyone. And she's only the first. After Catalina, Rockstar starts turning every friend into a possible traitor, from Vice City's beach houses to San Andreas' cul-de-sacs. Next, we'll look at how that exact formula mutates with Lance Vance, and why his smile is the biggest red flag in Vice City. Alright, so if Catalina is the loud, dramatic betrayal, Liberty City in GTA 3 is the quiet version that never stops. You go from one smiling employer to the next, and every single one of them is basically asking the same question. How long can we use this guy before we have to get rid of him? The first thing that happens is you land in Leon territory. You're doing jobs for Joey, Tony, and then the big man himself, Salvatore. On paper, you look like a made guy in training. In reality, you're the definition of disposable. They never let you into the room where decisions get made. You're always the driver, the trigger, the cleanup crew. And you can feel it, right? It's kind of like being the intern at the world's most violent office. So here's how it goes. Salvatore pretends you're his new golden boy, then hands you the mission that proves what you really are. He tells you to take a car down to the docks. Simple job. No questions. But when you get close, Maria and Asuka cut in over the radio and basically go, "Don't get in the car. It's a trap." And in that split second, Liberty City shows you its true face. The Dawn you've been loyal to has just tried to turn you into scrap metal. It's a messed up situation because the game doesn't give you a big speech or a cutscene debate. You just silently turn that loyalty off like a light switch and drive away. After that, you don't wait around to see if Salvatore changes his mind. You preemptively betray the people who were about to betray you. You go straight to the Yakuza, help Asuka take him out, and suddenly you're shooting at the same mobsters who were paying you 5 minutes ago. From there, it never stops. The Yakuza treat you the same way, useful, but never one of them. Asuka uses you to weaken the cartel, then gets snatched off screen. The Colombian cartel only ever sees you as the guy they failed to kill in the intro. You're bouncing between Leone family jobs, Yakuza hits, cartel revenge, and you're always the outsider. No matter who you work for, you're the tool, never the partner. And in the middle of all that, you've got crooked cops like Ray Machowski who will happily feed you targets while planning his own escape. And Donald Love, who just vanishes the second things get too hot. Informants flip. Side characters disappear. Everyone lies about who they're really scared of. Liberty City isn't built on alliances. It's built on leverage. You're not building a crew. You're surviving a food chain. In this video, I'm going to show you how Gita keeps turning that screw. Because what happens after Liberty City is Rockstar cranking the same idea way higher. Vice City actually lets you feel safe with Lance Vance for hours. He laughs with you, rides with you, saves your skin, and then? Well, that's where the real low blow kicks in. Vice City flips the script. Because the first thing that happens is you and Lance actually start on the same side of a disaster. Tommy flies in from Liberty City, fresh out of a 15-year stretch, thinking he's just doing a simple deal for Sonny Forelli. Sun, palm trees, quick score, easy money. And then that dock ambush hits like a truck. Bullets everywhere, the coke is gone, the cash is gone, and Victor Vance gets dropped right in front of Lance. So here's how it goes. In one cutscene, Tommy loses Sonny's money, Lance loses his brother, and you're both standing in the smoking crater of the same setup. That's why Lance feels legit at first. He isn't just some random contact. He's the one guy who's hurting as much as you are. When he pulls up later in that white Infernus, talking revenge, you kind of go, alright, this is my guy. Two angry outsiders in a city run by snakes. After that, the game really sells you on the partnership. Early missions, Lance is right there in the line of fire. He backs you up in shootouts. He flies the helicopter while you're hanging off the side. He's yelling stuff like we're partners now, and constantly calling you bro. You know that mall mission where he swoops in with the chopper and you're mowing down goons on the roof? In the moment, it feels like a buddy movie. It's almost like the game is saying, relax, this one's different, you actually have a friend. Then, pattern interrupt. Watch what happens after you start buying businesses. You're taking over the print works, the Malibu, the drug routes, and Tommy is suddenly the one giving orders. Lance shows up late, complains about the jobs, starts snapping when you tell him to lay low. He wants the big meetings, the big speeches, the spotlight. When Diaz is gone and the mansion is yours, listen to the way Lance talks. He's not just hyped, he's measuring how much power you have versus how much he thinks he deserves. Rockstar keeps putting him center stage on purpose. He's in key cutscenes, he rides with you on heavy missions, he cracks jokes in the car. In this video, I'm going to show you how that framing tricks your brain into treating him like a co-protagonist, not just backup. So when he finally flips, it's a real low blow because the game trained you to trust him for hours. And that raises the real question, was Lance always going to sell you out, or did the power imbalance slowly rot him from the inside? Did Sonny Forelli get in his ear early, Or was it only after Tommy became the king of Vice City and Lance felt like the sidekick? Look, we don't get a clean answer, but the tension is there in every impatient line he throws at you. In the next part, we're going to dig into when that loyalty actually snaps, and what happens after Lance decides he'd rather stand with Sonny than with you. So here's how it goes when that loyalty finally snaps. You hit the final mission, keep your friends close, and all the quiet tension we've been talking about just explodes. Have you ever replayed this part and noticed how fast everything falls apart when Sonny actually walks into the mansion? Alright, the first thing that happens is Sonny arrives in Vice City like he owns the place. He's done pretending this is just some friendly business visit. He storms into your mansion with his guys, starts screaming about his money, and demands his cut of everything you built. And behind the scenes, Lance has already been feeding him details about your operation, your cash, your layout, like he's been writing a walkthrough for how to rob you. You can feel it in the setup. Tommy thinks he's just going to pay Sonny off with counterfeit cash and maybe walk away. But you know something is off the second the ambush kicks in. Bullets start flying inside your own lobby, your own staircases, the same place you've been saving the game and admiring the view. It's a messed up situation because this isn't some random warehouse. This is your home base getting cracked open. Then you get the reveal. And Rockstar makes it personal. Lance cuts in over the intercom, and he's not even subtle. He taunts Tommy, brags that he's been working with Sonny, and flat out mocks him for thinking they were partners. He throws lines about "we're not equals" right in your face. It's a real low blow because you remember all the missions you dragged him through, all the times you picked him up when he was whining about the Vance crime family. Look at how the gameplay sells that betrayal. After Sonny's guys rush the entrance, you're fighting room by room through your own mansion. You're taking cover behind your own furniture, clearing out Lance's goons on your own stairs, pushing up to the roof. What happens after you break through that last wave is pure payoff. It's just you and Lance on the rooftop. No cutscene cop-out. Just a one-on-one duel where you personally pull the trigger on the guy you've been relying on all game. And Lance's motives? They're classic Gita. He's resentful because he feels like the sidekick while Tommy becomes the face of Vice City. He wants a bigger cut. He's scared of Sonny's reach back in Liberty City. And instead of stepping up, he folds. It's greed, ego, and fear all mixed together. In this video, I'm going to show you how this fits a bigger pattern. Gita loves this move, the mid-game ally who turns into the final boss you have to execute yourself. Lance walks so guys like Big Smoke, Dimitri, and even Michael or Trevor in Gita 5's endings can run. In the next part, we're going to zoom out and track how this exact blueprint keeps coming back across the whole series. Alright, so if Lance is the blueprint, Vice City Stories is like the secret prequel chapter that explains why that blueprint hurts so much. Because before Tommy ever meets Lance, you meet the brother Lance keeps talking about but you never see. Victor Vance. The first thing that happens is the game throws you into Vic's life as a straight-edge soldier. He's not trying to be a kingpin. He's literally just trying to pay for his sick brother's treatment and keep his family together. And right away, his own commanding officer, Martinez, drags him into the drug trade, then turns around and pins it all on Vic to save himself. It's a messed up situation, because you see exactly how a good guy in Gita gets pushed into crime by people who are already corrupt. After that, what happens is basically a chain of quiet betrayals. Vic gets used by every type of shark in Vice City. Drug lords like Diaz playing nice, sleazy businessmen promising a way out. Even supposed allies in the military. Everyone keeps telling him this is the last job, the big score, the ticket to freedom. But every time you think you're done, Someone pulls you back in with another lie. You know that feeling when a mission giver smiles, and you can already tell they're about to screw you over? Vice City Stories lives in that feeling, and all of this pressure lands on the Vance brothers. Lance is already insecure, already jealous, already watching Victor get shot at and betrayed for trying to protect him. So when you go back to regular Vice City and see Lance turn on Tommy, it hits different. You're not just seeing a random backstab anymore. You're seeing a guy who grew up watching the one person who actually cared about him get chewed up by this city. It doesn't excuse what Lance does, but it explains how much trauma is sitting behind that Lance Vance dance. Then we jump over to Liberty City Stories, and it's the same song in a different key. Tony Cipriani is supposed to be Salvatore Leone's loyal attack dog. On paper, this is family. But Sal is paranoid, aging, and surrounded by snakes. So here's how it goes. One mission he trusts you with his life. The next he's half convinced you're going to whack him for someone else. You're constantly proving yourself because mob politics keep shifting under your feet. These games don't really give you one giant Lance Vance moment. Instead, they bombard you with smaller double crosses, half-truths, and tests of loyalty. Betrayal becomes background noise. It's just how the world works. And in this video, I'm going to show you how that constant hum sets you up for the next big hit. Because when we get to San Andreas, all that low-level treachery suddenly turns into something way more personal. Big Smoke, Ryder, CJ's own childhood friends. What happens after their turn makes Lance look almost tame. So here's how it goes. If all those earlier games teach you that betrayal is normal, San Andreas tricks you by doing the opposite at first. It drops you right back into something that feels safe. Have you noticed how hard the game leans on that when CJ comes home after his mom's death? The first thing that happens is you step off that plane and instantly get humiliated by Tenpenny. But after that, the story rushes you straight to Grove Street, old cul-de-sac, old houses, that green bridge. It's like the game is saying, look, this is home, this is solid. And waiting there are Big Smoke and Ryder, childhood friends. Not just side characters, they're framed as pillars of what's left of the family. That first cutscene with Smoke in CJ's old house is legendary. He pulls a gun on you, realizes who you are, then immediately flips into that big, over-the-top laugh. It feels like a genuine reunion, right? Then you meet Ryder, clowning on CJ's haircut, calling him out for bouncing to Liberty City. They roast you, they hug you, they drag you back into the car. It's messy, but it feels real. Alright, think about those early missions. You're doing drive-bys in the beat-up Greenwood, 3 deep with Smoke and Ryder, spraying at Ballast while they shout trash out the windows. Smoke yelling about follow the damn train. Ryder ripping on CJ's aim. Everyone talking over each other. You know that feeling where they kind of bully you but also back you up? The game makes that your baseline for loyalty, and Rockstar layers nostalgia on top of it. You roll past your old house, visit Sweet, deal with family drama about you leaving. Kendall arguing, Sweet blaming you for not being there when Mom's died. In this video, I'm going to show you how intentional that is. The game wants you to believe Grove Street is worth fighting for. These aren't just gangbangers. They're people you grew up with. People you're trying to make proud again. But if you look back, the red flags are already there. Smoke is obsessed with money and comfort. Every other scene he's talking about getting paid, hitting the drive-thru, ordering half the menu while you're supposed to be laying low. Ryder is constantly disrespectful, calling CJ a buster, too lazy to do anything unless it benefits him. Have you noticed how often they complain when it's time to really push back against the Ballas? They'll ride on some small-time sets, but when Sweet wants to make big moves, Smoke and Ryder always have an excuse. Wrong time. Wrong place. Need better guns. It feels like regular homie laziness on your first playthrough, but after you know what happens, it's a messed up situation. You start to see how carefully they avoid truly challenging the Ballas's rise. So when they finally flip, it doesn't just hurt CJ, it hits you. It makes the whole idea of family in Gita feel like a lie. If Grove Street can't be trusted, what can? And we're not even at the crash yet, because next, Tempeni walks in and turns all that fake safety into a trap. Tempeni walks in, and this is where San Andreas quietly flips the whole game on you. Because remember that first cutscene, the drive-by that kills CJ's mom? At the start, you just accept it as random gang violence. Ballas roll up in a green car, light up the house, and boom, family gone. It feels chaotic, like wrong place, wrong time. But what happens after a few hours is, you start noticing how off things really are. Big Smoke is weirdly calm about the whole situation, always talking about moving on, about making money instead of defending the block. Ryder keeps clowning on Sweet, calling him stuck in the past. And you, as CJ, are just trying to fix Grove Street while your homies keep nudging you away from it. It's a messed up situation, but you don't have the full picture yet. Alright, so here's how it goes when the truth finally hits. You get to the mission The Green Saber. Sweet's heading into a huge fight with the Ballas, and you're racing to back him up. The first thing that happens is Tenpenny hijacks you, drags you out under the bridge, and you see it, Big Smoke and Ryder just standing there with him, posted up like they've been there a while. No guns drawn, no fear, just business. That single shot, them next to Tenpenny and Pulaski, confirms everything in one frame. They didn't just drift away from Grove Street, they helped set it up. The Ballas ambush isn't random. The drive-by that killed CJ's mom isn't random. Sweet getting overwhelmed isn't bad luck. These guys cut a deal with the cops and the Ballas and sold out the entire street. And this betrayal is layered. They don't only switch colors, they help destroy CJ's family from the inside. Sweet gets locked up. Your mom is dead. Your sister's life is wrecked. And CJ gets literally dumped out in the countryside, miles from Los Santos, stripped of his territory and power. In this video, I'm going to show you how rare it is for a Gita twist to hit this hard, because the game doesn't just give you a cutscene and move on. It rips you out of the city and says, start over. Look at the motives. Big Smoke is hungry. He wants power, money, respect on a scale Grove Street can't give him. Fast food jokes aside, he's thinking cartel deals, crack empire, working with whoever's on top. Ryder's different. He's not the mastermind. He just wants to be on the winning side. And he's lost faith that Grove will ever bounce back. They both kind of decide the green they care about now is cash, not colors. And unlike Lance in Vice City, Smoke's betrayal doesn't stay in one mansion. It echoes across the whole map. Gang territories shift. Your mission structure changes. CJ's arc goes from local gangbanger to statewide operator, all because two family members chose progress over loyalty. But the wild part is, San Andreas still isn't done showing you how deep this rot goes. Because the next time you come back to Los Santos, the city you left is not the city you return to. When you finally roll back into Los Santos and see how much has rotted, you realize something. It's not just the gangs that sold you out. The city itself is rigged against you. And that's where Officer Tenpenny and Pulaski slide in, like the final boss version of Betrayal. Alright, so here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is they don't just threaten you, they own you. Tenpenny frames CJ for the murder of a cop, dumps him out in the countryside, and basically says, work for us, or your whole family dies and you rot in a cell. It's not a one-time double cross, it's a contract. Every mission with CRSH is them yanking the chain again. Look at what they actually make you do. You're supposed to be rebuilding Grove Street, But now you're out here helping the Vagos, sabotaging the Russians, burning Truth's wheat fields and burning Desire, cleaning up witnesses, all because these two corrupt cops tell you to. You know it's wrong. CJ knows it's wrong. But the game locks you into it. It's a messed up situation where your survival means betraying your own values over and over. And they stay clean the whole time. Tenpenny never pulls the trigger on screen when it matters. He just points and you do the dirty work. When they want a witness gone, you do it. When they want a gang war stirred up, you do it. What happens after each of these missions is CJ walks away a little more compromised while Tenpenny drives off laughing. Still untouchable. Still in uniform. Then you get the really dark layer. Tenpenny doesn't just betray outsiders. He betrays his own people. Remember Officer Hernandez? First, he's bullied for talking to internal affairs. Then in high noon, Tenpenny has Pulaski execute him out in the desert. And you? You're the cleanup crew, forced to chase Pulaski down and fix the mess. Betrayal cascades down the hierarchy. Tenpenny uses Pulaski. Pulaski uses you. And you're left holding the bag. Here's the pattern interrupt. You think San Andreas is about gang betrayal. But halfway through, you realize you're in an abusive relationship with the system itself. You can't just shoot this problem and move on. Every time you finish a CRH job, another one pops up. It's like the game is saying, you thought Big Smoke was bad? Try fighting the cops who control the rules. And this doesn't stop with San Andreas. Rockstar keeps that idea alive in the HD games. In GTA 4, you've got guys like UL Paper, government ghosts who point Nico at targets and vanish. In GTA 5, it's Steve Haynes doing the Tenpenny cosplay, using Michael, Franklin, and Trevor, then acting like he never knew you once the job's done. In this video, I'm going to show you how that shift turns betrayal from a personal grudge into something institutional. But San Andreas is where you first feel trapped inside it. Because after Tenpenny, you don't just expect a friend to stab you in the back. You kind of expect the whole system to. And once you start expecting the whole system to stab you in the back, San Andreas hits you with something even worse. What do you do when it's your own people? When the traitor isn't a cop in a suit, but the guy who used to sit on your mom's couch, eating chicken? Alright, so here's how it goes. By the time you reach end of the line, you've been living with Smoke's betrayal for hours of gameplay. You watched Grove Street fall apart. You watched crack tear through the neighborhood. And Smoke just kept getting richer and more untouchable. The first thing that happens is Tenpenny literally drives you to the base of Smoke's crack fortress, crashes and bails. And you're the only one who actually goes in to clean up the mess. It's you. A tanked up SWAT truck and this giant maze of metal doors and gunfire. Inside, the game really makes you feel that climb. Floor after floor, different gangs, different weapons, guys in body armor, enemies swarming out of every corner. You're fighting Vagos, Valis, Russian mob. Like the whole criminal ecosystem is guarding this one man. And the higher you go, the more it feels like you're pushing through every bad decision CJ ever made, just to get back to the moment Smoke sold you out. It's not just a shootout. It's kind of like a guilt trip with AKs. When you finally kick open that last door and see Big Smoke sitting there in his tracksuit counting money under neon lights, the energy just flips. He doesn't rush you. He doesn't beg. He gives you that half apology, half excuse speech. It was about the money, about not wanting to be a loser on the block, about how the game was changing and he didn't want to get left behind. You know it's a messed up situation because CJ isn't just mad, he sounds tired. His lines come out like someone talking to a brother who's already gone. You still have to gun him down, but the way he dies, coughing, trying to justify himself, lands like a eulogy for Grove Street as it used to be. Ryder? Totally different. No big monologue, no emotional boss room. You chase him in a boat, trade some lines, and he goes out fast in the water. It's a real low blow because it shows you not every betrayal gets closure. Some people turn on you, you catch them, and that's it. No speech, no lesson, just another body. After Smoke and Ryder are gone, Los Santos actually reacts. Grove Street starts taking territory back. Dallas lose their grip. The green comes back on the map. You finally reclaim CJ's house. Sweets posted out front again. The neighborhood feels alive. But the ghosts don't leave. Kendall, Sweet, even CJ's own dialogue keep reminding you what it cost to get here. You won, but you're standing on the ruins of your old crew. And what happens after San Andreas is Rockstar takes that feeling and dials it in even tighter. In the HD era, starting with Nico Bellic in GTA 4, the betrayals get closer to home, and sometimes you're the one who has to pull the trigger on a friend. But what if the game lets you choose who dies, and then quietly punishes you for it hours later? Alright, so here's where Rockstar pulls a little magic trick on you. After all those chaotic 3D era betrayals, GTA 4 shows up and says, hey, what if this time you actually get a fresh start? And for the first couple of hours, you kind of believe it. The first thing that happens is Nico Bellic steps off that boat into Liberty City with two promises in his head. 1. The classic American dream pitch. Money, women, safety, a normal life away from the war. 2. Something way darker. He's hunting the traitor from his old army unit, the guy who sold his squad out and left most of his friends in a mass grave. So, right away, you've got this split. He wants peace, but he's built out of revenge. And then there's Roman. Roman is your welcome committee, your comic relief, your emotional anchor, all rolled into one sweaty tracksuit. He's hyping up big American titties, talking about casinos, luxury condos, bowling, like he's already made it. You get off the boat and he's selling you this fantasy nonstop, right? But when you actually get to his penthouse, it's a roach motel over a taxi depot. No mansion, no casino, just lies wrapped in optimism. Look, in this video, I'm going to show you how that gap between what Roman says and what's really going on is not just for laughs. It's the setup. Early on, you're running taxi jobs, dodging loan sharks like Vlad, doing favors for tiny-time gangsters who feel way more dangerous than your own cousin. Roman keeps saying everything's under control, but every mission pulls back another layer of debt, threats, and bad decisions he's been hiding from you. You start thinking, okay, the betrayal is going to come from these guys on the street, not from the people close to me. Meanwhile, Nico is wired differently from any previous GTA protagonist. This is a guy who survived a war, watched friends die because someone he trusted sold them out. He's paranoid, but he's also insanely loyal to the few people he lets in. When he tells Roman or little Jacob he's got their back, you believe him. So when someone like Dmitry Roskolov later smiles in Nico's face and then turns on him, it's a real low blow. You feel it more because you know betrayal is literally Nico's core trauma. So here's how it goes. GTA 4 spends its whole first act convincing you that the real danger is outside the family. The grind, the mobsters, the loan sharks, the city itself. But the game is quietly tightening the noose around Nico's trust. What happens after those early missions is you get pulled into a chain of double crosses, not just one. And by the time you hit the final act, Rockstar does something brutal. It hands you a choice that can turn you into the betrayer, and depending on what you pick, someone you love is going to pay for it. And the worst part? Liberty City just keeps going like nothing happened. So who really got played? Nico or you? And once you start asking that question in Liberty City, you run straight into the same answer over and over. Dmitry Raskolov. If Catalina is the prototype backstabber, Dmitry is the HD remake. He's the guy that makes you stop trusting anyone with a slick suit and a calm voice ever again. Alright, so here's how it goes. When you first meet Dmitry, he actually seems like the reasonable one. Faustin is loud, drunk, paranoid, shooting people over nothing. Dmitry is quieter, business-minded, always talking about deals, about stability, about keeping the Russians alive in a changing city. You know that feeling where you think, okay, this guy might be the adult in the room? That's the trap. The first thing that happens is he pitches you a solution. Faustin is out of control, the Russians are in danger, and Dmitry just wants to clean it up. So he asks you to do the dirty work. Kill Mikhail Faustin. It feels like a necessary evil. You take the hit, you go to the docks, you pull the trigger, and you think you've just earned yourself a powerful ally. Dmitry even calls you afterward, calm and polite, telling you to meet him at the old warehouse so you can settle things and move on. What happens after you walk into that warehouse is Dmitry's real face. No more reasonable fixer. He has Ray Bulger in waiting, the guy from Nico's past who thinks you stole his money back in Europe. Dmitry sells you out instantly, like there was never even a second of loyalty. It's a messed up situation, you clean up his problem, and he answers by putting you in a kill box. You barely get out. Bullets everywhere, Molotovs, guys pouring in from every angle. And Rockstar doesn't just treat this as a cutscene betrayal. It hits your actual save file. After that ambush, Nico loses Roman's apartment, his own safe house, the whole old life in Broker and Bohan. You're forced to relocate to Mallory's contact in Bohan, and suddenly your map, your routine, even your taxi business are gone. Dmitry's betrayal isn't just emotional, it's mechanical. The game rips up your progress to show you how hard a backstab can reset your world, and Dmitry keeps doing it. Every time he shows up, it's survival, profit, and zero loyalty. He'll work with Bulgarian, with Pegorino, with whoever has cash that week. No code, no family, no for the old days. He is pure Jita 4, trust no one. Because everyone is playing an angle, and if you think you're partners, you're already losing. But here's the really cruel part. In this video, I'm going to show you how Rockstar doesn't stop there. Near the end, after everything he's done, the story tempts you with one last deal with Dmitry. One last big score. Do you forgive the serial betrayer for a payout? If you say yes, it's a real low blow, and someone you care about is going to pay the price in a way that makes every earlier double cross look small. And that choice? That's where Liberty City tests what kind of betrayer you're willing to become next. Alright, so here's where GTA 4 does something brutal. It doesn't just ask you who you want to kill. It asks what kind of person you've let Nico become. Do you break your own word? Or do you double down on revenge and risk the last good thing in your life? So here's how it goes. At the end of the story, you get two options. Do the deal with Dmitry, like Roman keeps begging you to, or go full revenge and finally put Dmitry in the ground. On paper, it looks simple. One is, be smart, get paid. The other is, stick to your principles. But in this video, I'm going to show you how both paths are actually you betraying something important, and the game makes sure you feel it either way. If you pick deal, the first thing that happens is Nico goes against his own promise. He swore he'd never trust Dmitry again. After the docks, after the heroin setup, after every ambush. You've watched this guy snake you for hours. And now, for Roman's dream of a clean future, You go fine. One last time. It already feels dirty. Then Dmitri does exactly what you knew he would. He turns on you in the deal, he keeps the money, and you still have to fight your way out. You sold out your principles for nothing. And the real punch doesn't land until the wedding. Roman finally gets everything he wanted. Nico tries to play along like this was all worth it. And a hitman shows up. The bullets were meant for Nico, but Kate takes the shot. She dies because you try to compromise with a man you knew was poison. It's a messed up situation, because Nico's mature choice literally gets the one person killed who actually pushed him to be better. Go revenge, and it flips. You stay loyal to yourself. You hunt Dmitri down, storm the ship, and kill him. In the moment, it feels right. Justice served, promise kept. But what happens after is the world decides to betray you instead. Pegorino, furious that you ruined his big score, crashes Roman's wedding and sprays the steps with bullets. This time, Roman is the one who dies. Your last remaining family, gone in a second, just collateral on someone else's ego. And that's the trap. Deal, and you betray your own word. Revenge, and the universe betrays you for daring to stand by it. Either Kate or Roman is taken from you, and Nico is left staring at a body thinking, was any of this worth it? It's a real low blow, but it's on purpose, because Rockstar is setting up the same kind of question GTA 5 throws at you later. When it's Franklin choosing between Trevor, Michael, or Death Wish, it's that same test. Who are you willing to sacrifice? And can you actually live with the kind of betrayer you picked to be? And the wild part? GTA 5 gives you one way out that GTA 4 never does. And that's exactly why Liberty City hits you so hard. Because in GTA 4, sometimes you're the one pulling the trigger on the past. Have you ever done the Dwayne versus Playboy X choice? And then kind of regretted it hours later when it finally sank in what you actually did? Alright, so here's how it goes. Dwayne Forge is this old-school Liberty City gangster, fresh out of prison, still stuck in that late 90s mindset. He's depressed, broke, and watching the neighborhood he bled for move on without him. Playboy X is supposed to be his proc, but when you meet him, he's in designer clothes, talking business deals, networking with politicians, trying to be this corporate crime boss. It's like you're looking at two different timelines of Liberty City standing in the same room. The first thing that happens is both of them start pulling you into their problems. Dwayne is asking you for help with small sad jobs, trying to scrape back a little respect. Playboy is asking you for help cleaning up loose ends so he can look legit. Then you hit that mission where Playboy calls you up and drops the bomb. He wants you to kill Dwayne, not just beat him up. Kill him. A man who literally trusted you because you helped him when he had nobody. After that, Rockstar does something smart. Dwayne calls you too. He's paranoid, he knows Playboy wants him gone, and he asks you to deal with Playboy instead. No cutscene forces your hand. No Dimitri-style setup. You drive to the marker and the game just quietly asks, who are you betraying? If you go after Dwayne, you're basically killing Liberty City's old soul. If you go after Playboy, you're killing the shiny, fake future that replaced it. Either way, it's a messed up situation. Killing Dwayne gets you a cash payout. Playboy stays alive. But that's it. He never becomes a real friend. Never a proper ally. Just another contact who used you. You lose Dwayne forever. And with him, you lose one of the only people in the game who actually cares about Nico as a person. Killing Playboy flips it. He runs. You chase him down. And when he's gone, you get his penthouse, his wardrobe, that iconic yellow jacket. Then Dwayne, if you call him later, can become a loyal backup. One of the best friends Nico can have. What happens after makes it sting more than Dmitri in a different way. Dmitri betrays you in cutscenes. Here, you dial the number. You walk up the stairs. You aim. It's a real low blow because you can't blame the story anymore. You chose what kind of traitor Nico is, and this is Rockstar evolving Betrayal into gameplay. In this video, I'm going to show you how they keep pushing that idea forward, because this choice is just the warm-up for the even harsher player-driven betrayals that come next. Alright, so if Nico choosing who to betray felt personal, Rockstar takes that same idea and dials it up inside a single gang with the Lost and Damned. What happens after GTA 4's main story is you jump into Johnny Klebitz's life. And on paper, this should be the one place in Liberty City where betrayal doesn't exist, a biker brotherhood. The first thing that happens is the game really sells you on that family vibe. You roll with the Lost MC, they've got bylaws, patches, a clubhouse, and this whole code about loyalty and looking out for each other. Johnny is the acting president while Billy Gray's in rehab. And you can tell he actually cares about the guys. He's not just chasing chaos, he's trying to keep the crew alive, keep the heroin deals under control, keep the peace with other gangs. For a minute, it kind of feels like, alright, this is one corner of GTA, where loyalty might actually mean something. Then Billy gets out, and that's where the crack starts. Look, Billy is all about mayhem and ego, and Johnny is about survival. Stuck between them is Brian Jeremy. Brian worships Billy. He hates that Johnny ever had power, and he sees every cautious move Johnny makes as weakness. You can feel his resentment building in the background. Every time you question Billy, Brian's right there, backing his president, throwing shade at you. It's like watching a civil war get drafted in real time. So here's how it goes. Once Billy gets arrested, and Johnny's version of leadership becomes the new normal, Brian just snaps. He refuses to accept Johnny as the real president, and he turns that resentment into a full-on coup. Suddenly, the ambushes start. You roll up thinking you're meeting brothers, and it's a firing squad. Brian sets up assassination attempts, splits the club into two factions, and tries to brand you as the traitor. It's a messed up situation because the game literally forces you to hunt down guys you were doing formation rides with 20 minutes ago. And what happens after that internal war is brutal. By the time you track Brian to his safe house and end it, the Lost isn't a brotherhood anymore. It's a hollowed out shell. You've killed half your own roster. The other half doesn't trust anyone. And rivals like the Angels of Death and the Triads can smell blood in the water. This is Rockstar, showing how betrayal doesn't just hurt feelings. It weakens an entire faction so badly that by GTA 5, Trevor can wipe out the Lost in Blaine County like they're nothing. In this video, I'm going to show you how that connects to one more twist. Because Johnny, the guy who survived Billy and Brian's treachery, is about to face a different kind of betrayal. Not from a brother in a cut, but from Rockstar and a certain lunatic in a dirty trailer. You think internal betrayal is rough? Wait until you see what they do to Johnny next. And that's the thing, Johnny gets wiped out in a dirt lot. But in Liberty City's rich districts, people get betrayed in VIP booths with bottle service. Alright, so here's how it goes. The Ballad of Gay Tony takes that same you will be used idea and just wraps it in champagne and neon. You're Luis Lopez, the guy who actually keeps things running, and Tony Prince is your boss, your friend, and your biggest problem all at once. Luis is the muscle, the fixer, the one who shows up with a gun. Tony's the chaotic nightclub legend, buried in debt, coke, and bad decisions. The first thing that happens is you realize their relationship is kind of like a toxic marriage built on IOUs. Tony gave Luis a way out of street life. Luis keeps dragging Tony out of the grave he keeps digging. Every time Tony panics, you're the one pointing a gun at someone rich enough to never learn your name. Look at guys like Morky Boots. He rolls in, acting like he owns the city, flexing on everyone, constantly disrespecting Luis and using Tony's desperation as leverage. Then you've got Rocco Pelosi, the sleazy fixer for the Enchiladas, who treats Tony and Luis like disposable contractors. These dudes smile in your face, shake your hand, and the whole time they're thinking, how do I squeeze more out of these two before I cut them loose? It's a messed up situation. Mission after mission, the betrayal isn't always a big twist. It's in the way the rich clients handle you. They send Luis into gunfights, drug deals, helicopter chases, then act shocked when bodies drop. They threaten Tony's clubs, his life, his reputation, and every favor they grant comes with a hidden knife behind the back. You can feel it. You're never a partner. You're an asset. And Tony? He betrays you in a softer way. Not on purpose, but with every relapse, every bet, every bag of coke he shouldn't touch. What happens after he blows another deal is always the same. Luis has to cross another line. Torture a guy. Hijack a train. Go after the diamonds again. You know Luis doesn't really want this, but to keep Tony afloat, he keeps betraying his own safety and whatever moral limits he had left. Those diamonds are the perfect example. They bounce between Nico, Johnny, Luis, the mob, Ray, Bulgarian, random goons on a yacht, everyone trying to double-cross everyone else over the same stupid score. Nobody really wins. Half the people chasing them end up dead, and the bag literally gets thrown in the trash. That's Rockstar telling you, all this betrayal for what, exactly? Quick pattern interrupt here. You think that's cynical? GTA 5 takes it one step further. In this video, I'm going to show you how the next game starts with a betrayal so meta it lies to you, the player, about who actually died in the very first heist. Because once we hit North Yankton, even the tutorial is a setup. Alright, so here's where GTA 5 pulls its nastiest magic trick on you. You think you're just doing a tutorial heist, learning the buttons, right? But that snowy prologue in North Yankton is actually the first, and maybe the biggest, betrayal in the whole game. So here's how it goes. It's 9 years before the main story. Michael, Trevor, and Brad hit a small-town bank in Ludendorff, North Yankton. Classic setup, masks on, hostages screaming, you blow the vault, grab the cash. The first thing that happens is everything feels like a standard GTA opener. You fight through cops, race toward the getaway chopper, you know the drill. Then, the ambush hits. Police cars box you in near the farm. A sniper tags Michael, and he goes down in the snow, while Trevor loses it, and Brad gets shot too. Michael tells Trevor to go. Trevor runs into the blizzard and the camera lingers on that funeral with Michael's name on the grave. As a player, you lock that in as fact. Michael Townley died that night. Except, he didn't. Much later, after you've been hanging out with Michael de Santa in Los Santos, the game finally admits what happened after that prologue. Michael secretly cut a deal with FIB agent Dave Norton before the heist. Dave would stage the ambush, kill Michael, bag a fake hero moment, and in return Michael gets witness protection, a new identity, and a mansion in Vinewood. Trevor? Brad? Nobody tells them anything. Trevor is left in the snow thinking his best friend is dead, and Brad actually dies and gets dumped in that North Yankton grave under Michael's name. It's a messed up situation. Look at how many levels that hits. Michael betrays Trevor by faking his own death and never breaking cover for 9 years. He betrays Brad by basically trading his life for that deal, and then letting him rot in a coffin with the wrong name on it. And he betrays the crew's whole code they talked about before the heist. All that stuff about sticking together and never turning on each other. For a guy who later lectures Franklin about loyalty, it's a real low blow. What happens after that lie is Trevor's entire personality. The paranoia, the random rage, the way he clings to loyalty like it's religion. That's 9 years of grief and confusion hardening into this broken person. When he finds out Michael's alive, his reaction isn't just anger, it's his whole worldview shattering on screen. And Rockstar's not done. By the time you reach GTA 5's endings, the game basically asks you, are you going to repeat Michael's move and betray one of your own? Or are you finally going to break that cycle? In this video, I'm going to show you how that choice connects right back to this first fake death, and then how later games keep doubling down on that same pattern. And that cycle doesn't just show up at the very end. Rockstar spends the whole middle of GTA 5 warming you up for it, with Michael and Trevor's relationship slowly tearing itself apart in front of you. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is Trevor finds out Michael is alive in Los Santos. And that moment is pure shock and rage. He sees that news report, connects the dots, and you can feel his whole worldview snap. This guy he watched die in North Yankton is suddenly living in a mansion, sipping wine, doing yoga. Trevor drives straight down there, storms Michael's house, and just invades his new life. It's love and hate in the same breath. He hugs him, he chokes him, he screams at him. It's a messed up situation because you can tell he missed Michael, but he also wants to kill him on the spot. From that point on, every mission with them is like a series of micro betrayals. Michael keeps lying about Brad, telling Trevor that Brad is in prison, writing letters, doing fine. You know that grave in North Yankton? Michael knows exactly who's in there, and he still looks Trevor in the eye and doubles down on the lie. It's a real low blow, because Trevor's whole personality is built on this twisted idea of loyalty, and Michael keeps poking that wound. Then Trevor goes and kidnaps Patricia Madrazo. On paper, it's a power move against Martin. In practice, it's Trevor blowing up Michael's already fragile deal with the Mexican cartel guy who literally has Michael's family at gunpoint earlier. Michael's trying to play it cool, retire, keep Amanda and the kids safe, and Trevor just drags Patricia to the trailer like it's a rom-com. You're sitting there thinking, how is this not going to end in blood? And in the middle of all this, they're both using Franklin. Missions like Mr. Phillips, Friends Reunited, Fame or Shame and On keep turning Franklin into the errand boy for their drama. Need backup? Call Franklin. Need someone to drive? Franklin. He's supposed to be the prop, but half the time he's just cleaning up after two old dudes who can't stop reliving 2004. Bury the hatchet is where it all really tightens. You literally dig up the past in North Yankton, and Trevor finally sees Brad's body in Michael's grave. Michael still tries to spin it, still runs, still hides behind half-truths. After that, you can feel it. Another betrayal isn't just possible, it's guaranteed. Every heist meeting, every argument in Lester's factory, you're waiting for the knife. Meanwhile, Franklin is watching all this from the sidelines. He sees that mentors and father figures are just as unstable as gang leaders and mob bosses. If Michael faked his death, and Trevor can flip from brother to executioner in one cutscene, what does that say about Franklin's future if he stays with them? And that's exactly why by the time you hit the final choice screen, it doesn't come out of nowhere. Kill Trevor, kill Michael, or try to save them both. Each option is its own little exam on everything you've learned about betrayal in this game. So what happens after you actually pick one of those endings? And how does the game quietly punish or reward you for that decision? And that's where Rockstar does something kind of evil. Because right when you think you passed the test, they throw you into the biggest trap of the whole game. So here's how it goes. Up to this point, Steve Haynes and Devin Weston have basically slid into that 10-penny role. These guys are the new puppet masters. One is a crooked fib agent who treats you like a disposable asset. The other is a billionaire sociopath who thinks people are just bad investments he can write off. Together, they decide it's time to clean up the mess you helped them make. The first thing that happens is Franklin's life finally starts looking good. You've done Lamar down. You pulled your boy out of that sawmill ambush. And it feels like you actually saved somebody for once instead of losing them. Then you hit the Union Depository heist. The big score the whole story's been building toward. Money in the bank, respect on the street, nicer house, nicer car. You know the vibe. For a second, it's like Franklin actually escaped the hood without having to sell his soul. And that's exactly when the phone rings. Franklin's at his place in Chamberlain Hills, just vibing in that new house that's supposed to mean he made it out. Devin Weston calls, all casual, and basically says, "Hey, remember Michael? Yeah, I need you to kill him." He talks about it like canceling a contract. No emotion, just business. Right after, Steve Haynes leans on you from the fib side and tells you Trevor has to go too. Loose ends. Liability. Pick one. It's a messed up situation, because both of these guys are talking like they own you. Look at the trap here. These are the same people who dragged Franklin into federal conspiracies and private wars he never asked for. Now they're saying, if you want that new life to last, you have to betray the two men who actually helped you get it. Michael, the mentor who taught you heists. Trevor, the psycho who still rode for you when it counted. Franklin standing in a house that screams you made it, and the price tag is literally their lives. Then Rockstar hands the knife to you. Kill Trevor, kill Michael, or call Lester and light the fuse on Death Wish. This is the moment where every guitar betrayal you've seen flips around and lands in your lap. You're not just watching Catalina or Lance Vance sell someone out anymore. You are the one deciding who gets betrayed to keep the story going. Alright, in this video I'm going to show you what happens after each of those choices. But before we break them down, think about this. Is there actually a right answer here? Or are you just choosing what kind of broken world you want to live in? So let's get started with the first brutal branch. Because if you don't pick Death Wish, and you scroll up to something sensible, you're not just choosing an ending. You're choosing to side with Michael and the fib against Trevor. You're basically saying, yeah, the guy who's been ride or die since North Yankton, the one who took a bullet and a fake funeral for Michael, he's the problem now. Alright, so here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is Franklin gets that call from Devin, and the pressure locks in. Pick option A, and suddenly Franklin is dialing Trevor, trying to play it cool. He invites him out, makes it sound like just another meetup, but you can hear it in the performance. Franklin's voice is tight. He hesitates. He kind of sells this fake casual vibe that doesn't quite land. Trevor, being Trevor, doesn't suspect the setup from Franklin. He's annoyed. He's ranting. But he still shows up, because in his head, you're his guy. Right after that, Franklin calls Michael for backup. And this is where it already feels off. Michael doesn't give a clean, heroic I'm in. He's like, he'll see what he can do. He reminds Franklin this is really Franklin's mess. And he clearly does not want to be the one to pull the trigger on Trevor a second time. You can almost feel North Yankton hanging in the background of every line. Michael already betrayed this man once. Doing it again? It's a messed up situation. But the key thing here is that the game does not fade to black and show you a cutscene betrayal. You take control. You drive. You chase. You line up shots. This isn't Catalina gunning you down in a pre-rendered intro or Lance Vance flipping sides behind your back. This is you, as Franklin, actively hunting a character you've played as for dozens of hours, a guy you used to swap to, just to see what chaos he'd spawned in his underwear. And as you're doing it, the game leans into that feeling. You're not just killing a mission target, you're erasing 1/3 of the story. You know that when Trevor goes up in flames, it's not just a dramatic cutscene, it's the end of his rampages. His weird loyalty to Ron and Wade, his whole corner of Blaine County. The betrayal is mechanical as much as emotional. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what happens after that choice. But for this section, I want you to keep a few big consequences in mind. We've got Trevor's actual death scene and how it plays out depending on who hesitates. We've got Michael's reaction right there on the asphalt and the way his guilt bleeds into every text and non-answer later. We've got the phone calls that change, the way Lester, Jimmy, Lamar, even Ron and Wade talk like Trevor just disappeared instead of getting set up by the only two people he trusted. So the real question is, does killing Trevor actually fix Franklin's life? Or did you just repeat the exact pattern Michael started in North Yankton and prove that in Gita, the only way out is to betray your own? Because once we dig into what the game does next, it starts to feel like the world itself knows you crossed the line. So here's how it goes. Right after that choice, the game doesn't cut straight to chaos. It starts with a phone call that already feels wrong, even if you've never seen this ending before. Franklin pulls out his phone, scrolls to Trevor, and tries to sound normal. You can almost hear him forcing it. Yo, T. What's good, man? You busy? On the other end, Trevor doesn't buy it for a second. Franklin, my favorite little repo man turned government errand boy. You only call when the shit's about to hit the fan. So what is it this time, huh? Franklin dodges. Nah, it ain't like that. I just thought we could talk, Meet up. Somewhere quiet. There's a pause. You feel Trevor listening more than talking. Somewhere quiet. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a setup at all. But fuck it. Let's go make some memories. Text me the spot. He still shows. That's the first thing that happens that really stings. He knows something's off, and he comes anyway, because on some level he still believes Franklin is his guy. Cut to the meetup. Trevor rolls up, jumps out, full Trevor mode. Look at you. Mister, big time. Got the nice car, the nice house, the nice federal handlers. You gonna kiss me or kill me, Franklin? At least buy me dinner if you're gonna screw me. He laughs, that wild, broken laugh. It's a messed up situation, but he's still treating Franklin like this twisted friend he can roast. Then Michael arrives late, like he always does when it really matters. You feel the energy snap. Trevor's face drops. Oh, I get it. You brought the snake. Of course you did. Michael tries to play it calm. T, listen. This isn't what you think. Trevor explodes. What I think? I think every time my life goes to shit, your face is somewhere in the background, Mikey. North Yankton, Brad, the fib. And now you drag the kid into it. Franklin's stuck in the middle, voice low. Man, they said you were a problem. They said if I didn't do this, they'd come for all of us. Trevor snaps his head at him. And you believe them? You chose them over me? Over the only crazy motherfucker who ever had your back without a contract? The chase, the crash, the gas leaking out over Trevor's body. Even here he's still spitting, look at you two. Fib lapdogs. You didn't fix shit. You just did what they always do. Trade one body for another and call it freedom. His bravado finally cracks as the fire crawls toward him. You picked comfort over the truth. You picked them over me. Just like North Yankton Mikey. Just like every goddamn time. He tries to stagger away from the wreck, soaked in gas, furious and hurt, voice breaking. I was loyal. I was real, and you burned me for it. Then you push the button. Flames, screams, and then silence. And what happens after that moment, when the smoke clears, and the game quietly starts treating Trevor like he never mattered, is where this betrayal really digs in. When the fire goes out, the game doesn't cut to celebration. It cuts to damage control. And the first thing that happens is you hear it in Michael's voice. All right, listen to that post-mission phone call again. He's shaking. He's trying to act like the seasoned pro, telling Franklin that Trevor was a liability, that this had to be done, that now they're finally safe. but he keeps repeating himself, like he's trying to convince himself more than he's convincing you. You can almost hear him looking over his shoulder while he talks. Then Franklin pushes back a little, and that's where it cracks. When Franklin questions if this was really necessary, Michael's tone snaps from fake calm to defensive. He almost breaks. You get that edge of panic, that "don't do this to me" kid energy. It's a messed up situation, because you can tell he knows exactly what he just replayed. North Yankton all over again. Back then, he sold Trevor out to survive. Now, years of therapy, family drama, and "I'm trying to change" later, he survives again by sacrificing the same guy. So here's how it goes. In this video, I'm going to show you that for all the talks with Dr. Friedlander, Michael hasn't really changed. He just found a cleaner way to explain the same betrayal. Meanwhile, look at Franklin. On paper, he wins. He gets paid. He removes the craziest variable in his life. He's in deeper with the fib and Michael. But watch his body language in that final cutscene. He's stiff, quiet, barely making eye contact. His lines are short, hesitant. It's like he knows he crossed a line you can't uncross. You ever finish that mission and just feel weird walking out of his house after? That's intentional. There's no "we did it" moment, no high five, no real relief. Michael keeps using that cold business language, calling Trevor a problem, a loose end, a liability. Franklin mostly just lets the silence sit. And the silence is loud. The game doesn't need to have him say, "I feel guilty," because you can feel it in what he doesn't say. Would you really brag about this choice to Lamar? Here's the pattern interrupt. You think the betrayal ends with the cutscene. It doesn't. What happens after is the world itself starts acting like Trevor never mattered, but it also never lets you enjoy it. His trailer is locked. His properties? You can't buy them. Wade just loops in the strip club, still talking like Trevor's alive. Ron sends those furious texts, blaming you and Michael, but he never shows up to fight. It's a real low blow, because mechanically you got away with it, but emotionally nothing feels right. On top of that, Michael texts Franklin that they made the right choice, then ghosts him. He won't hang out. He won't pick up the phone. Lester eventually figures it out and basically says, "Don't ever bring this up again." The map is technically open, but your crew is spiritually broken. And this is where we can really break down how the game quietly punishes every one of these betrayals, across every Gita, not just this one. So here's how it goes. When you actually follow through and burn Trevor in that final mission, the game doesn't just give you a cutscene and move on. It quietly rips a chunk of the world out. In this video, I'm going to show you how deep that cut really is, because the consequences are way bigger than just losing one crazy character. The first thing that happens is obvious on the surface but brutal in practice. Trevor is gone as a playable character. No more switching over to find him in his underwear on a beach. No more sudden rampages in the desert. No more random chaos when you're bored. His trailer? Locked in as a dead space. His safe houses and his businesses just sit there, like a museum of bad decisions you're not allowed to touch anymore. You feel it every time you hit the character wheel, and there's just nothing. After that, the game twists the knife with the phone. Remember how Trevor would blow up your phone with insults and weird invites? Once he's dead, calling him just kicks back a generic disconnected line. No angry rant, no voicemail, just silence. It's a messed up situation, because you know exactly who did this, but the game acts like his number just stopped existing. That loudest voice in the trio turns into a void. Then Michael's side of things starts to shift. In activities and little random moments, he'll drop lines about Trevor being gone. Sometimes it sounds like he's trying to convince himself it was necessary. Other times there's this cold detachment, like he's relieved the ticking time bomb finally went off. You'll be playing golf or driving to a movie, and out of nowhere he'll say something that reminds you of that burning car. It never really lets you forget. Franklin feels it too, but in a different way. His hangouts with Lamar and the homies start to hint that he's more alone than he thought he'd be at the top. You'll hear lines where Lamar jokes about Franklin being big time now, but there's an edge to it. Without Trevor around as the wild card, Franklin is stuck between a distant Michael and friends who don't fully get his new life. It's like the ladder up came with a trapdoor underneath. On top of that, certain heist replays change. You can't plug Trevor back into those old jobs, and Lester's dialogue shifts to treating the crew like a thing that used to be. Even the final credits feel different. Without Trevor's chaos hanging over Los Santos, the montage plays out weirdly hollow, like the city is quieter but not in a good way. You got peace, but did you just drain half the personality out of the game? That's the real low blow the ending doesn't spell out. And when we look at betrayals across the other GTAs, you'll see this isn't the only time the game trades safety for soul. And that piece gets even creepier when you realize how everybody reacts to Trevor just being gone. Or really, how they don't react. Have you ever noticed how the game kind of acts like he just wandered off into the desert instead of being burned alive by his own crew? So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is Lester hits you with that line, "Trevor's fallen off the grid." He literally tells Franklin he doesn't know where Trevor went, like Trevor just disappeared from the map. And you can feel Lester trying to rationalize it. In his head, Trevor going dark is way more believable than Franklin and Michael teaming up to kill him. It's safer to believe Trevor did something insane and vanished than to admit your whole crew just imploded. After a while, Lester finally texts that he knows what happened and they should never talk about it again. But look at the order there. First, denial. Then, silence. It's a messed up situation, because the guy who always has every detail, every camera feed, every bank record, suddenly chooses not to know. And then there's Ron, Trevor's #1 fanboy. The guy who literally built his whole personality around being Trevor's right hand. What happens after Trevor's death? Practically nothing on screen. No big cutscene. No confrontation. You don't get Ron screaming at Franklin or trying to get revenge. He just sends a few angry texts, then the game quietly shelves him. You can tell from those messages and from how he's just missing that Ron basically has a breakdown off camera. But Rockstar never makes you sit in that moment. The world avoids directly saying what Franklin and Michael did to Ron's idol. It's like the game is protecting you from seeing the emotional fallout you obviously caused. And if you were halfway through Trevor's Strangers and Freak stuff, alright, those just die with him. The weird desert characters, the rampages, the odd jobs, all that unfinished business just evaporates. No one in Sandy Shores asks where Trevor went. No angry cousin shows up. Those story threads are just cut mid-sentence and left blowing in the wind. That silence is what really stings. The game doesn't just let you kill Trevor. It kind of helps you pretend it never happened. No funeral. No shrine at his trailer. No one even tags a wall for him. It's like Los Santos, and even the script itself. Sweep Trevor under the rug instead of giving him any closure. You know when a friend group suddenly stops mentioning someone and it feels wrong? That's the vibe. And in this video I'm going to show you. When a betrayal feels that wrong and that covered up, it usually means the story is hiding something bigger. If erasing Trevor from the world feels like this, what happens if you flip it? What happens after you choose the other path, sell out Michael instead? And watch the game try to pretend that betrayal is normal too. So if selling out Trevor already felt wrong and kind of covered up, what happens when you flip it the other way and point the gun at Michael instead? Does that actually feel like justice? Or does it feel like you just broke the game's fake little family for good? Alright, so here's how it goes. When you pick option B, you're basically saying, yeah, Trevor's right about this guy. And at the same time, you're buying into Devin Weston's cold logic. You're not just cleaning up a loose end. You're killing the guy who's been trying, in his very broken way, to have a normal life. A movie producer dad, doing yoga, going to therapy, grilling in the backyard. And now you're about to turn that into a crime scene. The first thing that happens is Franklin makes that call. You hear it in his voice straight away. He sounds stiff, awkward, like he's trying not to say too much because he knows what this really is. Michael doesn't. Michael thinks it's just another job, another late night I need help, old man moment. He even leans into that mentor role again, like, sure kid, I'll come through. We've done this 100 times. He has no idea he's walking into his own last mission. And that's what makes this betrayal feel so different from killing Trevor. With Trevor, you're betraying chaos. A wild friend who's dangerous and unstable, where part of you can say, yeah, this was always going to end badly. With Michael, you're turning on the guy who pulled you up, the one who taught you the ropes, gave you a way out of the hood, tried to act like a father figure even when he was terrible at it. It's a messed up situation because the tone here is way more tragic than explosive. In this video, I'm going to show you how the game leans into that tragedy. You get that chase up the factory, Michael running, yelling, trying to figure out why you're even doing this. You corner him on that platform, and he finally drops the mask and begs, not as a mastermind, but as a dad who knows he screwed up. Then the game hits you with that brutal choice, pull him up or let him fall. Either way, it's a real low blow, and the camera makes sure you watch every second. After that, what happens after is just as important. His house goes dark, his family gets the money but loses the man. And we'll talk about how Amanda, Jimmy, and Tracy react when they realize Michael isn't coming back. The big question hanging over all of this is simple. Was Michael's original betrayal in North Yankton really bad enough to deserve this? Or are you just repeating the same cycle, becoming the next traitor in a world that never learns? Next, we'll break down that mission beat by beat and see how the game quietly punishes you for choosing to be that kind of Franklin. Alright, so here's how it goes when you actually pull the trigger on that choice and start the times come. The first thing that happens is you're not just picking a menu option anymore. You're literally driving Franklin toward Michael with this knot in your stomach. And the game knows it. It drags it out. You corner Michael at the foundry and suddenly it flips. He realizes this isn't a friendly meetup and he just goes, Franklin, what are you doing, kid? You can hear it, that mix of confusion and fear. Franklin doesn't even fully sell it at first. He's kind of like, you know what this is. They want you gone. And then Michael starts running, because of course he does. Survival is his whole thing. Now you're chasing him through that factory. Metal clanging, footsteps echoing, Michael shouting back over his shoulder. He keeps trying to talk his way out of it, like he always has. I brought you in, I treated you like family, and this is how you repay me? He throws Amanda and the kids in your face. You're gonna leave them without a father? After everything I did for you? It's a messed up situation. Because the game is literally making you hunt a guy who sounds more like a dad scolding his son than a crime boss begging for his life. As you climb higher, his tone shifts. Regret starts leaking out. He snaps about North Yankton, about how he did what he had to do to survive. Then he'll suddenly crack and say he wishes he'd done it different. I try to get out. I try to make it right. And now the kid I helped is here to bury me? He's angry, but it's that tired anger. You can hear his voice wobble. You know he's not just mad at Franklin, he's mad at himself. By the time you reach the rooftop, there's nowhere left to run. Franklin corners him on the edge, wind howling. City lights behind them. This is where they lay it all out. Franklin throws North Yankton at him, calls him on selling out Trevor. Michael fires back that Trevor was a ticking time bomb, that he saved everyone by cutting that deal. Then he flips it. Who betrayed who first, huh? I lied to Trevor to stay alive, and now you're lying to yourself that this is just business. Then the fight, the struggle, that last shove. Michael goes over the edge, hanging on by Franklin's hand. Time slows down. Literally, the game gives you that tiny horrible moment. Pull him up or let him go. But here's the real low blow. No matter what you pick, he dies. If you drop him, it's your direct choice. If you try to save him, they still slip, he still falls. And Franklin has to live with the fact that trying wasn't enough. And the camera makes you watch him fall. No quick cut, no joke, just this long drop, and Franklin's face stuck in that shocked, hollow stare. What happens after that fall, how the world quietly rearranges itself to remind you of this betrayal every time you play, is where things get really dark, and the game doesn't just let you move on. It quietly rearranges your whole save file around that fall, so every time you load back in, you're reminded of what you did. So here's how it goes. The first thing that happens is practical, but it hits hard. Michael is gone as a character. You can't switch to him, you can't see what he's doing. That whole Vinewood fantasy just gets ripped out of the game. His Rockford Hills house? Instantly up for sale. Gates locked. No more walking into that poolside midlife crisis. All those missions and random moments where you'd swap over and find him arguing with Amanda or passed out watching a movie? Cut off. It's like Los Santos loses one of its three colors. Then the emotional fallout starts. Amanda will text Franklin basically saying, I know you had something to do with this. Stay away from us forever. You can lie, you can deny it, but you know she's right to be suspicious. Jimmy might call, broken up, asking what happened to his dad, and Franklin has to do that awkward thing where he blames the fib or some vague job gone wrong. Tracy either goes silent or posts like she's trying to pretend life is normal, but from your side, that whole family just vanishes. No more hangouts, no more late night calls, just this empty contact list where a sitcom family used to be. Alright, now here's the pattern interrupt. You'd think losing Michael would at least bring Trevor and Franklin closer together, right? 2 survivors, 1 enemy gone. But it's a messed up situation, because what happens after is the exact opposite. Trevor knows. Even if you try to save Michael and failed, in his head, Franklin is the traitor that let it happen. He cuts you off completely. No more switching over to see Trevor doing something insane in the desert. No more hanging out. Just pure venom in that one post-game meeting where he calls you a snake and tells you to stay away. You didn't just lose Michael, you lost the entire old crew. Lester feels different too. In heist replays and little bits of dialogue, he'll reference Michael being gone, and the whole operation feels smaller, fragile, like it's one bad move away from collapsing. The banter is gone. It's business only. When the guy who was already a paranoid shootin' starts sounding even more closed off, you feel it. And then you hit the credits and the post-game world. Franklin has money, cars, a view over Los Santos, but it all feels colder. The game doesn't throw a big speech at you. It just lets the silence do the work. No goofy Michael scenes, no Trevor chaos to cut the tension. Just Franklin alone, successful on paper but carrying the weight of pushing his mentor off a tower. In this video, I'm going to show you how Rockstar kind of does the same thing with Trevor's Betrayal too, so by the time we get to Death Wish, you can see why that ending doesn't just feel cooler. It feels like the only one where G-5's world isn't permanently broken by your choice, and Trevor's Betrayal too. So by the time we get to Death Wish, you can see why that ending doesn't just feel cooler. It feels like the only one where Gita 5's world isn't permanently broken by your choice. So here's how it goes when you finally refuse to play along. Franklin's staring at that choice screen. The fib on one side, Devin Weston on the other, and every Gita instinct you've built up is screaming, pick someone to stab in the back. But instead of dialing Michael or Trevor, the first thing that happens is he calls Lester. That's already a huge red flag to the system. Franklin basically goes, what if I don't kill either of them? And you can almost hear Rockstar winking at you through Lester. Look, in this video I'm going to show you how wild that is in the context of the whole series. Up to this point, you've learned that when the government or some rich psycho says jump, you jump or you die. Catalina in GTA 3, Tenpenny in San Andreas, Dimitri in GTA 4, they all train you to accept the deal even when you know it's a trap. Death Wish is Franklin saying, nah, I'm not playing your game. It's a messed up situation, but for once he doesn't turn the gun on his own people, and then the betrayal flips. Instead of option A or B, where you sacrifice one friend to please the puppet masters, option C makes the puppet masters the targets. What happens after that phone call is you draw up a hit list. Steve Haynes, Devin Weston, Wei Chang Jr., and Stretch. All the guys who've been pulling strings, stirring up wars, or selling you out from the shadows. You're not just surviving anymore, you're settling accounts. That leads into the Foundry, which is kind of like the anti-Grove Street betrayal moment. Alright, think about Big Smoke and Ryder turning on CJ, or Lance Vance flipping on Tommy in Vice City. Those crews fall apart at the climax. Here, Michael, Trevor, and Franklin stand shoulder to shoulder, literally covering each other's backs while Merryweather and Fib squads pour in. For the first time, they're not a ticking time bomb, they're a real crew. And it feels different, right? You know Rockstar loves to hit you with, trust no one, everybody sells out in the end. But Death Wish lets you keep the family together. No house goes up for sale. No character vanishes from the map. Nobody becomes a ghost who never returns your calls. It's like a tiny rebellion against the usual Gita rule that betrayal is inevitable. The question is, does that one ending actually change the message, or just highlight it? Because when you zoom out and look at every Gita, from Catalina's double cross to Dimitri's deal, there's a pattern forming. In the next part, we're going to pull all those betrayals together and see what Rockstar is really saying about trust in this universe, and why Franklin's choice might be the rare exception that proves the rule. Alright, so if every single story game is screaming don't trust anybody, what happens after Rockstar hands the knife to you and 4 random players in GTA Online? This is where betrayal kind of shifts from cutscenes to your lobby. In the older games, the backstab is scripted. Lance turns, Dimitri turns, Stretch turns. You watch it, but in online, the first thing that happens is Rockstar gives you a heist board, 3 teammates, and a giant split the money screen, and just steps back. Have you ever had someone quit mid-heist finale, right when you're holding the bag? Or watch the host change the cut at the last second so you go from 25% to 15%? It's a messed up situation, because the system totally allows it. Look, even when the betrayal doesn't mechanically fire, the game keeps talking like it will. Lester, Agent 14, the Doomsday People, every heist contact is constantly throwing around words like snitch, setup, leak. You load into a setup, and Lester's warning you about rats in the crew. Agent 14 is paranoid about IA moles and rogue AIs. It feels like at any second, the NPC next to you is going to pull a Dimitri, even though most of the time, the only person who screws you is the guy in passive mode on the oppressor. So here's how it goes in specific heists. In the Doomsday heist, they hammer this idea that there's a traitor in the government, an AI that might turn on everyone, and that you're basically cleaning up a giant double cross you don't fully understand. In the classic Fleeka and Prison Break days, You've got Lester talking about how people flip on each other over a smaller score than this, like he's seen it 100 times. The narrative keeps you on edge, even if there's no big Lance Vance moment where your contact actually tries to kill you. But the real betrayal in online is softer and way more personal. You know how players will spam invites for setups, grind the boring parts with you, and then vanish the second they get their finale done? Or hosts who promise, "We'll rotate finale so everyone gets paid," and then log off the moment their cut hits their account? It's not a dramatic cutscene. It's just people using each other as disposable tools because the grind is so real. In this video, I'm going to show you how that economy design basically weaponizes inconvenience. Long load times, expensive gear, endless prep work. All of that pushes you into this mindset where you think, if I don't grab mine now, these guys will bail and I'll be stuck. It's a real low blow. Because even when Rockstar isn't scripting the betrayal, the systems make you act like they are. And the wild part is, this isn't just random chaos. There's a pattern here that lines up with every single betrayal we've already talked about, and one upcoming example that almost breaks the cycle entirely. And that pattern is basically Gita's favorite recipe for betrayal. Money, power, survival, revenge. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's how it goes. First, money. Cash is the #1 excuse everyone uses to stab you in the back. Big Smoke doesn't just wake up evil one day. He looks at CJ, looks at Grove Street, and decides there's more money in crack palaces and fast food fronts than in green bandanas. Dimitri in GTA 4 is the same thing on a colder level. He sells Nico out to Bulgarin, then does it again in the deal ending, because every time there's a bigger payout, he'll trade another friend. It's a messed up situation, but in Gita, loyalty has a price tag. And it's not just the big names. Sonny Forelli wants his cut from Tommy in Vice City, then tries to take everything. Brian Jeremy in The Lost and Damned pushes Billy towards chaos because chaos means more guns, more runs, more profit. Even random heist crew members in GTA 5 will ditch you if there's a cleaner score somewhere else. The first thing that happens is always the same. Someone does the math, and you lose. But money alone doesn't explain characters like Lance Vance. That's where power and ego kick in. Lance isn't broke, he's bitter. He hates being Tommy's sidekick, so he leaks info to Sonny just to flip the script and be the guy in charge. Brian Jeremy doesn't just want the Lost to survive, he wants Johnny under his thumb. Look at Devin Weston, stretching his influence over Michael and Franklin, or even Tenpenny, playing gangs like chess pieces. These betrayals feel less like I need to eat and more like I want to own the table. Then you've got the survival plays. Michael's fib deal is the textbook example. He doesn't sell out Trevor and Brad for a yacht and a movie studio at first. He does it because he thinks it's the only way to not die in that Ludendorff snow. In this video, I'm going to show you how many characters make that same call when they're cornered. Snitches in side missions, guys who flip in GTA online contact jobs. Even Roman's constant begging Nico not to start trouble is survival mode. You know that feeling when a character says, "It's you or me"? That's Gata's survival instinct talking. And then revenge cuts across everything. Nico's whole story is a revenge tour to find the traitor from his unit. CJ's payback on Smoke and Ryder is about betrayal, but it's also about his mom, his hood, his entire childhood getting wiped out. Trevor lives in permanent revenge mode. Any hint that someone crossed him, he's driving across the map barefoot with a shotgun. Alright, quick pattern interrupt here. If you really think about it, how many missions are just revenge with extra steps dressed up as business? Most of these backstabs are a messy mix. Smoke wants money and power, but he also fears being left behind. Michael wants survival, but he ends up rich and insulated. Nico wants revenge, but every job he takes is also rent and reputation. So which motive do you think is the least bad? If someone turns on their crew to stay alive, is that better than doing it for a bigger paycheck? Hold that thought, because next we're going to look at the one betrayal that almost breaks all these rules, and what happens after the game lets you decide how bad you really are. So once you see how often betrayal shows up, the next question is, how do the protagonists actually deal with it? Do they grow, or do they just pull the trigger and move on? Because Rockstar kind of uses each main character as a different answer to that. Alright, so here's how it goes. Claude in GTA 3 is the purest, coldest version of revenge. He never says a word about Catalina shooting him in the intro. He never monologues about Salvatore setting him up at the car bomb. The first thing that happens is you realize his reaction is just motion. He gets new work, climbs the ladder, and quietly erases anyone who crossed him. No speeches, no closure, just an empty stare and a lot of bodies. It's a messed up situation because you're doing horrible things, but the game never lets you hear what's going on in his head. Then you jump to Tommy in Vice City, and it's the total opposite. Tommy is loud, angry, theatrical. When Lance Vance flips on him with Sonny Forelli, Tommy doesn't just take them out. He turns the whole thing into a Scarface audition. He's yelling across the mansion, calling Lance a snake, screaming at Sonny about how he's not a lapdog anymore. Betrayal here is a stage, and Tommy wants the last word. You know exactly how he feels because he won't shut up about it. After that, CJ and San Andreas land somewhere in the middle. On the surface he jokes, he clowns around, he keeps that laid-back tone. But when the truth about Big Smoke and Ryder hits, it clearly hurts. He keeps asking why. He keeps circling back to family, Grove Street, his mom. When he hunts Smoke down, it's not just payback, it's this guilty attempt to fix everything that broke. He's angry, but he's also blaming himself for leaving, for not seeing it sooner. You can feel he'd rather have his people back than another victory screen. By GTA 4, Nico is just tired. Every new double cross, from Dimitri to the choice that gets either Roman or Kate killed, pushes him closer to that none of this matters mindset. He'll still go after the traitor, but he questions it out loud. Does killing this guy actually change anything, or is it just another job? What happens after you finally get your revenge and you still feel empty? Nico is the first one who really says that quiet part, and then Franklin in GTA 5 flips the formula again, because he's the only one who has to choose his own betrayal. Killing Trevor or Michael isn't about rage, it's about pressure and survival. He's pragmatic, but he's also standing there asking, what kind of man am I if I do this? Rockstar goes from simple they hurt me, I hurt them stories, to putting the knife in your hand and asking you to pick the least bad option. In this video, I'm going to show you how that evolution keeps going. Because next we hit the betrayals that don't just change a character, they rewrite the whole city around you. And that knife in your hand thing doesn't just happen in big finale missions. Once you start looking, you realize Rockstar hid a bunch of tiny betrayals in the background, in side jobs, and in choices you probably brushed off on your first run. So here's how it goes. In this video, I'm going to show you that betrayal in GTA isn't just about your best friend shooting you in a cutscene. It's baked into the everyday logic of the world. You clock in to do some random work, and quietly, somebody's already selling you out. Look at GTA V's police side missions with Francis McReary and the law enforcement stuff you do. Half the time you're chasing informants who just flipped for a lighter sentence. These are guys who were in the crew last week. Now they're naming names to save their own skin. The first thing that happens is you see their file, hear that they cut a deal, and then you're the one sent to clean up the mess. It's a messed up situation. Because the game is basically saying, this is normal. This is how the system works. Even in random encounters, it's a real low blow. Think about Ita IV again even, Charisse, Clarence, on paper. It's simple. The game gives you a choice. Spare them or kill them. But what happens after you show mercy? Even can show up later as a thief bragging about his new life, like your kindness was just a free reset button. Charisse in The Lost and Damned will call you out if you spared her as Nico, acting like you still owe her something. Clarence straight up tries to ambush you if you let him walk. You tried to be better, and they flipped it on you. Who betrayed who there? You or them? Alright, now layer in GTA Online. This is where the betrayals are mostly implied, but you feel them. Lester, Martin, even newer contacts like Agatha or English Dave. They all call you partner or associate, but you know what's really going on. You take all the risk, you eat all the wanted levels, and they skim a cut from a safe office miles away. When a heist goes bad, you get wasted and lose your payout. They just send another text like nothing happened. So what happens after you notice this pattern is pretty wild. You start realizing every job is someone treating you as expendable muscle. That random contact who disappears after one update, they used you, then moved on. That optional mercy kill you skipped, it just set up a future moment where the game reminds you that kindness is another way to get burned in this universe. How many of these did you actually catch on your first playthroughs? And would you play differently now that you know how many quiet backstabs are hiding under the surface? Keep that question in mind, because next we're going into the betrayals that don't just hit you personally, they literally rewrite who runs the city and who lives in its shadows. Alright, so if you zoom out for a second, you start to see something kind of wild. With every new generation of Gita, betrayal doesn't just repeat, it actually evolves. It goes from big, loud cutscene twists to you quietly asking yourself, who am I about to stab in the back, and can I live with that? In the 3D era Gita 3, Vice City, San Andreas, betrayal is like a boss fight. It's huge, it's scripted, and it usually hits late. Catalina shoots Claude in the opening heist, sure, but the first thing that happens after you grind through Liberty City is you realize the whole story is just you crawling back to that first betrayal. Same with Lance Vance in Vice City. He's your helicopter buddy for hours. Then suddenly he's on the mansion balcony with Sony Forelli, and you're like, oh, so this was a setup the whole time. Big Smokin' Rider in San Andreas? That's the classic they sell out Grove Street early. But you don't get the full reveal until the story is ready to flip the table and give you a clean revenge arc. Back then, Rockstar is basically saying, you got played, now go get payback. It's clean. It's dramatic. You know exactly who the snake is, and the game hands you the shotgun and the final mission name in all caps. But in the stories era, Liberty City stories and Vice City stories, it shifts. Betrayal gets quieter, more paranoid, more about who you can sit at a table with without getting shot in the back. Tony Cipriani deals with mob politics, where uncles, bosses, and so-called friends keep nudging him into jobs that feel more like tests. You're not just betrayed once, your trust gets sanded down over time. In Vice City stories, it's family. Vic's own brother, the people he's trying to protect, keep dragging him into deals that blow up in his face. It's a messed up situation, because the backstab doesn't always come with a cutscene. It comes with a favor that costs you more than you get. Then, HD hits with GTA 4 and the episodes, and betrayal turns into a pattern. Dimitri doesn't just double-cross Nico once. He keeps doing it even in the deal ending. Brian in The Lost and Damned, the choices you make with side characters, they all hammer the same point. In this world, loyalty has an expiration date. You feel like every handshake might be temporary. What happens after you pick one side is that someone else you trusted quietly becomes your enemy. Now GTA 5 takes that and throws it right at you. So here's how it goes. The biggest betrayals are no longer just done to you, they're done by you. When Franklin gets the options to kill Trevor, kill Michael, or take Death Wish, that's Rockstar asking, who are you willing to erase? Killing Trevor or Michael is you choosing a betrayal and then living in that broken, awkward world we talked about. Death Wish, weirdly, is the one time you can say, no, I'm not repeating the cycle, and keep the crew together. By the time you get there, Rockstar has moved from you got backstabbed to you are the backstabber. And in this video, I'm going to show you how that shift sets up the power moves, the turf flips, and the citywide betrayals that decide who actually ends up running these worlds. Alright, so here's the wild part once you zoom out over every city, every era, every protagonist. The more you look at GTA as a whole, the more it starts to feel like Betrayal isn't just a plot twist. It's the real final boss. The cops, the rival gangs, the big bad crime lords, they're loud, they're dangerous, but they're almost never the actual endgame. Think about how these stories end. In GTA 3, Catalina isn't just some random antagonist. She's your partner, your girlfriend, the person you literally start the game robbing a bank with. The first thing that happens is she shoots you in the intro, then circles back around in the finale to try and kill you again. In Vice City, you spend the whole game building an empire with Lance Vance at your side, only to find out he's been leaking info to Sonny and walks out on you in your own mansion. The last stretch isn't about beating the cops. It's about cleaning up your inner circle. San Andreas doubles down. CJ's biggest wounds don't come from ballast shootouts. They come from Big Smoke and Ryder switching sides, and Tenpenny playing you like a puppet. That moment in the crack factory where Smoke admits he made a choice hits way harder than any tank chase. You're not just killing a boss. You're killing a friend who sold you out for money, power, and a fat house full of lies. It's a messed up situation, and you feel it. GTA 4 does the same thing from a different angle. Dimitri doesn't just betray Nico once. He keeps doing deals behind your back, and if you pick the deal ending, he sets you up again, this time costing Roman his life. The emotional climax isn't the biggest gunfight. It's that wedding cutscene where you realize your own compromise opened the door. Even in the spin-offs, like The Lost and Damned and The Ballad of Gay Tony, the gut punches are friends flipping, clubs changing hands, and crews tearing themselves apart from the inside. By the time you get to GTA 5, Rockstar has basically trained you to side-eye every ally. You meet someone new and your brain instantly goes, okay, when do you stab me? That design is on purpose. It keeps you on edge, it makes every handshake feel temporary, and it lines up with GTA's whole cynical view of crime and capitalism. In this world, loyalty is just another resource to cash out when the price is right. And then they push it one step further by making you do it. Playboy X or Dwayne? Kill Trevor or kill Michael? You're not just surviving betrayal anymore. You're choosing who to betray so you can get the apartment, the money, the clean ending. So here's how it goes. The game quietly asks, what matters more to you? Your principles or your progress? When you pick Death Wish, it almost feels like you've finally beaten the system. Like you found the one route where nobody on the core crew gets sold out. But did you really win? Or did you just delay the inevitable? In a world built on double crosses, is it actually possible to climb without stepping on someone? Or is Death Wish just the closest thing we've ever gotten to a fake happy victory screen? Keep that in mind as we move into the citywide power shifts, because the next betrayals don't just break friendships, they redraw the entire map. So if every city we've looked at keeps getting rewritten by betrayal, what does that actually mean for GTA 6? Are we walking into another Death Wish-style mess where someone close to you is guaranteed to stab you in the back? Or are we finally due for something completely different? Alright, based on the pattern from 3 all the way to Gita 5, I'd say the first thing that happens is simple. Betrayal isn't going anywhere. Claude gets sold out. Tommy gets sold out. CJ gets sold out. Nico gets sold out. And in Gita 5, you literally choose which friend to sell out yourself. So here's how it goes in my head. If Gita 6 really is going back to Vice City with multiple protagonists, you can almost bet on intersecting storylines where one character's good move is another character's betrayal. Imagine something like Franklin, Michael, and Trevor again, but this time the game quietly tracks who you back up, who you short on their cut, and who you leave hanging during key missions. What happens after a dozen heists where you always keep the biggest slice? Does the quiet getaway driver finally pull a Lance Vance on you in the last act? You know Rockstar loves that long setup. But I don't think they're just going to repeat the same twist. A new angle could be letting you preemptively betray people. Not a forced cutscene, but a real choice. Do you sell out your crew to a corrupt cop before they do it to you? Do you take a long-term undercover role, playing nice with the gang for 20 hours while the game keeps tempting you to flip early? It's a messed up situation, because suddenly you're not just asking who's going to betray me, you're asking when am I going to pull the trigger on them. And then there's Gita Online. Look at how those heists work. Host controls the cuts, friends pretend they're cool with 15%, but they're definitely not. The Doomsday heist, the Casino heist, Gallo Perico, all of them are built around trust, money, and the constant feeling that someone is getting a better deal than you. Gita 6 is probably going to blend that mindset right into single player. I could see choices in story mode affecting your online character, or a crew member you ditched in single player showing up later in multiplayer as a rival boss. It's a real low blow if your own canon betrayal comes back to grief you in a lobby. But here's the twist I think Rockstar might actually try. What if they know we're all expecting the backstab now? What if the real shock is a crew that stays loyal from day one to the final mission, and the only way to break them is if you choose to? Would that feel boring? Or would it make the one time you do sell someone out hit way harder than Big Smoke, Dimitri, or anyone we've seen so far? So I want you to picture your ideal GTA 6 betrayal. Are you the one getting played again, watching another friend walk away with your score? Or are you the one walking down the runway while the plane explodes behind you, knowing you set it all up? Hold on to that idea, because in the next part we're going to look at how these betrayals don't just hurt feelings. They decide who actually gets to own the city when the credits roll. Alright, so here's how it goes. If your brain is spinning from all these double crosses, let's slam through the whole thing in one rapid fire recap and see the pattern. Because if you ever felt like everyone in Gita was out to get you, you know what? You were kind of right. First, the 3D era. Catalina kicks it off in Gita 3, shooting Claude in the opening heist, then trying to blow him up again in the final showdown. In Vice City, you think Lance Vance is your guy watching your back, and then he sells you out to Sonny, walks into your mansion with a smug speech, and pays for it on the roof. Over in San Andreas, the first thing that happens is the real gut punch. Big Smoke and Ryder cutting a secret deal with Tenpenny and the Ballas, setting up the drive-by that kills CJ's mom and the whole fake family vibe on Grove Street. Even Salvatore in Gita 3 and Liberty City Stories pulls the same trick twice, sending you to pick up a car that's wired to explode. It's a messed up situation when even your mob boss hands you the keys to your own funeral. Then the Stories and HD era crank it up. Victor and Lance in Vice City Stories are supposed to be brothers in arms, but money and stress pull them apart until the family bond is just another weak link. Tony and Salvatore? That whole relationship in Liberty City Stories is pure paranoia, with Salvatore constantly thinking you're the traitor while he's the one putting you in no-win setups. Jump to Gita 4, and Dmitry Raskolov is basically Betrayal on legs. He sells you out to Faustin, to Bulgarin, and if you pick the deal ending, he does it again at Roman's wedding. Playboy X turns on Dwayne, Brian turns on Johnny in The Lost and Damned, and the Diamond Saga is just one long chain of people stealing the same score and shooting each other over it. Then Gita 5 takes all of that and shoves it right in your face. Michael secretly cutting a deal with the Fib, selling out his old crew and dragging Franklin and Trevor into his mess. Trevor's whole rage is just him realizing he was abandoned and lied to for years. And at the end, what happens after you choose A or B is literally you becoming the betrayer, killing Trevor or Michael for money or pressure. Option C, Death Wish, is the one time you look at that pattern and say no. You refuse to do the usual Gita thing. And Gita Online? It's softer, but it's there. Flaky teammates ditching mid-heist, contacts using you as disposable muscle. Every job designed so you're watching the cutscene and also watching your cut. So yeah, in this video I'm going to show you that all of this isn't an accident. From Catalina to the Fib, from Lance to Lester's cold text, these games are built so you never fully relax. In the next part, we're going to dig into why Rockstar loves putting you in rooms where betrayal isn't a twist. It's the default. So here's how it goes. I've been walking you through every backstab in the series, but now I want to know about yours. Out of everything we've talked about so far, which betrayal actually hit you the hardest when you were playing, not just watching a video about it later? Was it Lance in Vice City, smiling in the cutscenes and then selling you out to Sonny? Was it Big Smoke sitting in that crack palace after hours of missions, and you finally realizing all those I'm just busy lines were a lie? Or was it Dimitri in GTA 4, when you pick the deal, think maybe he's done double-crossing you, and the first thing that happens is he gets Roman killed? It's a messed up situation, and Rockstar knows exactly what they're doing. Maybe for you it wasn't even one of the big ones. Maybe it was Playboy X turning on Dwayne, and you having to pick which friend lives. Or Brian in Lost and Damned pretending to be loyal to the Lost while he's basically trying to push Johnny into an early grave. Those smaller betrayals can sting more, because they feel like something you could have prevented, you know? And alright, we have to talk about Gita 5, because what happens after that final choice says a lot about you as a player. On your very first playthrough, be honest in the comments. Did you kill Michael, kill Trevor, or pick Death Wish? No judgment. Just say what you did first, not what you tell people you did now. Did you shove Michael off that tower and then instantly regret it when his family's text started rolling in? Did you set Trevor on fire and then feel weird every time Ron messaged you like Trevor just vanished? Or did you go straight for option C, Death Wish, because you couldn't bring yourself to betray either of them? Looking back now, do you regret your first choice? Or do you still stand by it even after seeing how broken the game feels when one of them is gone? Drop that story, because in this video I'm going to show you the consequences, but your version is the one that actually matters. And then there's Gata Online, where half the betrayals don't come from the script, they come from your friends. Tell me about the heist where your buddy promised a 25% cut and then quietly slid it down to 15 right before launch. Or the random who quits at the finale, right as you're driving to the drop-off with no lives left. Or the rare time someone actually waits for you, picks you up under fire, and kind of restores your faith for a second. Use the comments like a shared Gita therapy session. We've all been burned by the same characters, the same systems, the same fake we're in this together energy. I'll be down there reading through your stories, and in the next part we're going to start paying some of this off with deeper dives, like a full Big Smoke timeline. A closer look at Dimitri's pattern of betrayal, and even how all this might feed into GTA 6. Let's get started on that right after you tell me your most brutal betrayal moment. And that's kind of the point, right? After you've heard everybody's war stories, you start to realize Los Santos, Liberty City, Vice City, they all run on the same broken trust. So let's zoom out for a second. In this video, I'm going to show you how we basically took a full tour of every major betrayal in GTA history. From Catalina putting that first bullet in Claude in GTA 3, to Lance Vance selling out Tommy, to Big Smoke turning Grove Street into a business deal, all the way up to Franklin standing on that cliff and deciding if Michael or Trevor walks away. You just went through the whole pattern, start to finish. And all of it was raw game. No mods, no fan rewrites, no what if headcanon. Everything we talked about is in the actual games, baked into missions, cutscenes, text, and tiny world changes you can go back and trigger right now. You can replay Catalina's last stand. You can watch Dimitri betray Nico twice. You can see what happens after you pull the plug on Trevor or Michael, and the world just keeps going without them. It's a messed up situation, because the game never pauses to comfort you. It just locks the doors and moves on. So here's how it goes. If you learned at least one betrayal you didn't know about, or you finally connected two you never realized were part of the same theme, hit like. That's the first thing that happens to tell me this kind of deep dive is worth the hours of digging through missions and dialogue. And if you want more, if you want full breakdowns on single characters' endings and how your choices poison or protect your save file, make sure you subscribe. We're talking full Big Smoke timeline. A closer look at Dimitri's pattern of betrayal. Maybe even a run where we deliberately pick every backstabbing option just to see how broken the world gets. Alright, your turn. Drop a comment and tell me your own betrayal story. Who did you trust way too long? Was it Lamar in GTA 5 when you realize he keeps dragging you into setups? Or a random online crew member who bailed at the last second and left you holding the bag? And what do you think GTA 6 should do with trust and double crosses? Do you want more big scripted moments like Lance on the mansion stairs? Or slower burn betrayals that only unlock if you play a certain way? Look, the keeps changing. The map gets bigger, the graphics get cleaner, the heists get wilder, but one thing never really changes. The person who can hurt you most is always the one standing right next to you. So don't forget, smash that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you want to see what happens after the next big betrayal. And I'll see you in the next one, if you make it out alive.